Once you have gathered those requirements, you have documented them. So now here is one of your major responsibility where you have to communicate those requirements back to either business or the technical teams. And when you are in the communication mode, so you work closely with the project manager to assure the project plan is focused on yes, Khushbu. Actually, every company usually have their own formats, but again, the bottom line is, for example, their needs are, most of them, the overall needs are same, like database needs, reporting needs, some username, like login needs. So what happens at the end is business analysts and business analysis is same. So whatever I'm teaching you right now, so if you go to any, for example, IBM charges you I think $3,000. There is another company, Dell also had their own BA course started. I don't think I think they discontinued it after all this the whole economy crash came up. They were charging, I heard $2,500 or so. So you would see wherever you go. So these are the different standards they are going to follow. So of course when business analysis process is standard, so of course the whole documentation needs or formats would be same. So as I said, tomorrow probably I'll show you some of the documentations, that business requirements and then technical or function requirements. You will see format is same. And it totally depends on you that how you want to for example, the only difference there would be that you will see if one company is following bullets format, the other one is following numbering processes. Like they are saying that each and every single line should be numbered instead of bullets because they want to keep track of every single requirements based on their numbers. So this is how usually it happens. But back to your question, yes, every company would have their own documentation formats, but how different would it be from, let's say, the other company? I would say not even more than 1 or 2%. I hope I answered your question. Okay. After this slide, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, folks, because I can see people are getting exhausted, and I really don't want that.
No,
Okay. So when you're in communication part, again, always remember this is the most challenging part. Why? Because if you remember the first slide, I told you that what is your basic responsibility, where you are sitting, right in between of these two parties. And what is your basic role? You are a communication source. And how do you communicate? First you gather, first you have to have something to communicate. And first you gather all those requirements from both parties, then you document them in one place, and then you basically communicate it. So this is the process, or this is the part where you have to be very, very sensitive. I mean, this is a very sensitive part in your job or position. So in this part or in this phase, you work closely with the project manager to assure the project plan is focused towards the scope. Of course, we don't want to lose our track, where we started with the whole process. For example, if the whole objective was to have a website which would meet all these requirements for finance department within this insurance industry, for example. So we don't want to lose the track of that because, as I said, finance department is not a standalone process. It relates directly back to almost every single department of that organization, like HR, material management, sales and distribution. All these different departments are sitting in one organization, and finance is the department where all this information is coming back into, because all these departments, either they are spending money or they are earning money. So either spending or earning, so it's going back to the finance department. So you have to either, of course you have to talk to all these different organizations, but still you have to keep focusing on only one organization. So make sure you don't come up with the, and why I'm focusing on this part, because I've seen most of those IT projects got failed because of having such a business analyst in place who, of course, started the whole process for one department, but eventually he had to talk to other people, other departments, and he ended up with coming up with other departments' requirements and needs instead of focusing on that particular department. And of course that particular department at maybe 4 months or 6 months down the road, that particular department came to know that instead of focusing or completing or fulfilling our requirements, so this project is running into all other department needs, and which of course they do not want. And again, when you are sitting in between, always remember, tomorrow we'll go into the detail of that, but just just to give you some heads up on that, always remember the organizational politics in your mind. If one organization has come up with such an initiative, to spend, let's say, $10 million, same time other departments or organizations are aggressively working on their requirements and needs and to come up with the final solutions or the initiatives to let's say get it signed off or so. And they can either be very happy that this project is running, or they can be really very annoyed that, okay, we are really not happy with this project and we are not going to help you at all. So tomorrow we will see into the details how to handle all these situations and what sort of different situations usually come up. But again, the purpose of working closely with the project manager is that because project manager is most of the time he's your boss. If he's not your boss, still he's the parallel person who's working within that project parallel to you, because you are the person who's keep getting all these requirements and documenting them, and project manager is the person who's keep focusing on two parts, which is that he would not run out of time within that timeline. For example, he was given only 6 months to complete this project, so then he has to make sure that this project is completed within 6 months. And if he was given a particular budget, for example, this project has to complete within $2 million or $10 million, so then he is the person who has to make sure that it would be completed within that particular amount. So how would he manage it, or how would he make sure that he's achieving these both functions? Only with your help, because either you are assisting him or you are working in parallel with him, and you are the person who keeps getting all these requirements. So if you would not work with him, if you are not communicating with him that, okay, you just received this new requirement, so now you have to spend a little bit time on this, that maybe this requirement was not into the project plan before, and the project plan is already focusing on 6 months of period of time. So then this requirement itself only requires 1.5 months, let's say, and before it was not in the project plan. So definitely it's going to cost you for 1.5 more months. So you have to make sure that business side is okay with that this project is going to definitely run ahead of the project timeline for more than 1.5 months, and also that is going to cost them more. For example, usually if you ask me, on top of my head, if any project has between 15 to 20 human resources working in that, and if you're talking about moving at least 1 month of timeline, so it would directly, the whole budget would directly jump at least $50,000 to $60,000 of that, at least. I'm just giving you very rough idea of that. So you have to keep working with him closely, so you make sure that the whole project is running on the whole focus is still towards the scope, and appropriate critical requirements are documented. But I mean, sometimes, as I said, this requirement it came in, it's going to take 1.5 months, and it's going to cost you more $50,000 more. So okay, only looking into these two factors, you cannot just say, okay, we're not going to do, okay, this requirement is just eliminated. You cannot just do that, because there is a possibility that this requirement was really critical requirement, and this was the requirement which is really going to, I mean, if you do not do this, then still you are out of your scope. And to complete your scope of the project, this requirement has to be dealt with. So then you have to come up with different strategies that you have to see if somehow either we can extend the timeline, or maybe if we can get some more budget, and how to really deal with that. So different such different decisions you have to make, and then this is the only project manager person who can really make all these decisions. So within communication part, you have to conduct formal and informal requirement review meetings or presentations. Why? Again, the purpose is to find if you have missed anything, because you are a human being, human errors are everywhere. So you have to make sure that you did not miss anything, or if anything is unclear at this point, because you do not want to be a reason of failing any project, because at the end you were the person who took this initiative, who said that maybe you were involved in feasibility analysis and you were the person who said, yes, this project is really beneficial for the company. So now you are the person who's going to wear the cap at the end of the project saying that if it failed or passed. So you have to make sure that on each and every single step that if something is unclear, you have to go back to the business side and clarify that, or technical team as well. So how do you do that usually? Usually as soon as project is started, the best practice I would suggest you is, this is where I would say I really boost up my career. I jumped within my first project, I started as a business analyst, and within the same project, right after 3 months, I became project coordinator. So currently I'm working on the business relationship management part, which is again one bigger field of project management. Like usually project managers report to me now. But how you can really do that, because if you keep this communication part in place, but of course you have to be a little bit political also, that sometimes what happens is, for example, my suggestion is always have at least once a week status update meeting. So within that status update meeting, so people would technical teams would be there, business side would be there. So they will keep talking to each other. Most of the time you are the person who's just listening or taking a note, nothing else. But you are the key person who's going back, who's going to sort out all those discussion points, whatever you just discussed in that meeting, and then to come up with final solutions or ideas. So just make sure, and sometimes it becomes very hectic for those teams. They do not want to attend such sessions every week, and it becomes very hectic for them. But still you have to manage it somehow. So you have to see, or you have to play these games, saying that okay, so this person, if he's getting annoyed because he's just sitting there in that meeting for 1 hour, but not saying anything because this is not really related to him. So just eliminate or delete that person and just keep adding him as soon as his really need is there. Then conduct JAD sessions. What JAD sessions are, just quickly, they are joint application development sessions. Tomorrow we will see into the detail of JAD sessions, what JAD sessions are, how do we really do that, and what sort of different measures we need to take care of when we are really doing that. It's a really very time-consuming part. JAD sessions take lots and lots of time and resources. So, and of course companies usually don't like this, but they have to go with that. So who do you really do these JAD sessions there with the business and technical teams to review requirements and write summaries as well? Any questions so far?